So let's go on and talk about collections. So what are collections? Collections, again, the two different types are sets and dictionaries. When we talk about sets, think about union, intersection, and so on and so forth. Those different things that we do with sets that we're already aware of. With sets, we want our items to be unique. So you cannot repeat items within a set. Also, it's unordered. It doesn't really care about the order of the items, but the sets, you can always make changes to them. Okay. So a good use for set is if you want to find out what are the unique elements in a list, then you can convert your list to a set and then check what the size of the set is. Okay. Also, we have dictionaries. Dictionaries, just like the dictionary in real life, dictionaries have words and descriptions. But in the dictionary of Python, you have keys and values. The keys can be of any data type. The key does not always have to be an integer, because when we think about sequences, the keys were always integers, which are in other words known as indices or index. But in this case, your key can be a string, a key can be a double, or it can also be an integer. But when we talk about tuples, tuples again are immutable. Tuples can be used as key values in your dictionaries because once you have your key, you don't want to go ahead and change your key. Does that make sense? So again, at the end of the day, as I promised, I hope this table helps you to clarify what the differences are. In here, you're not going to see arrays because, like I said, arrays are not native in Python. So we talked about lists. Lists, the order actually matters because you have those indices. So if you say index 0, it's going to give you the first element. Index 3 is going to give you the fourth element. Okay. List, you can change them. It can be mutated. In order for you to create a list, you use square brackets. Okay. So you can create an empty list, which you're going to see later on. You can also create a list that has values in there. Okay. So an example of a list, as you can see here, this list has values of different data types. It has 5.7, which is a float. It has 4, which is an integer. It has yes. In this case, yes is in quotes, so it's a string. And it has 5.7 again. These two values are repeated, so it's not a set. If you want to change this into a set, we're going to go to the third line. You see that the set, the order doesn't really matter. We can change it. To create a set, we need curly braces. Curly braces. And we can also use the set keyword to create one, because when you use curly braces to create a set and you don't give it a value in there, it's going to automatically think you're creating a dictionary. The dictionary also uses curly braces. The dictionary does not care about the order because it does not use numbers. It uses keys. You can change the values of the dictionary, but you cannot really change the keys. Okay, so you can create a dictionary in this format. For instance, you might want to keep track of a particular number for a number of items or number of orders, maybe for each month. Then you can use the name of the month as a key. For June, you had 75 sales. For July, you had 89 sales. And since it's mutable, you can keep adding months and adding months. Or if you made a mistake, instead of 75, it was 25, you can come back and change this to 25. So that's how you create a dictionary or make changes to a dictionary. We are going to practice a lot of this hands-on once we are done with just reviewing the concept. So tuples again, we're not going to talk much about it, but they are ordered. You cannot make changes to tuples. To create a tuple, you need parentheses, or you can use the tuple keyword. All right. As you can see in here, the tuple looks exactly like the list, except you're using parentheses instead of square brackets. And with those parentheses, you cannot make any changes to this tuple. If you need to make changes, you have to create a new one altogether. Does this make sense?
Yeah, you mentioned that tuples cannot be changed.
Yes.
And you also mentioned that you could use that in terms of coordinates of whatever a city or something.
Mm-hmm.
But I struggle to know another different application where tuples could be used.
Okay, very good. Another different time you might be able to use tuples. One thing is that I can think on top of my head is social security numbers. If you're saving social security numbers of people, of say candidates or employees or people's, you definitely don't want them to come tomorrow and change their social security number, right? So once it's in there, it's fixed and it cannot be changed. Does that help?
Can you add to tuples?
Unfortunately, no. So let's go ahead and let me try opening an example here. Let's see if I can switch over to a new folder and call that. Nope, that's not where I want to create it. This is where I want to create it. Basics. And I'm coming to you shortly, Fabian. Let's see if we can figure out this one. So let's say tuples. Py. So to create a tuple again, let me make this bigger. We said we needed to use those curly braces, right? Oh, sorry, those brackets. So let's go ahead and say tuple 1 is equal to 1, 2, 3, yes. No. So again, tuples, you can also do them nakedly. If I can use that word in here, let me see if I can go back to our display and see where we had that. So tuples, where is it? It's as simple as a comma separated list of values. Okay, so if we do this, this will give us a tuple. Okay, if I press enter and check for the type, it's going to print that out for me. So let's print it. And execute that. Before I execute, let me go ahead and clear this stuff from last night. So if we execute this, that tells us that it's of class tuple. Okay, another way we could have done that is, let's say, use the same thing. Oh, I always do that. Use the one key for copying. Let's call this number 2. And I'm going to use parenthesis. Let me just go ahead and change the order here. Also go ahead and print that. So let's equal to the type. And this should be tuple 1 data type. Oh. That's one. That looks good. So let's execute that. It tells us both of them are tuples. Now, if we wanted to go ahead and make changes, which is something we haven't talked about yet, if we want to identify the first item in tuple 1, what we need to do is we'll type in tuple 1, and then we use that index. Okay, is everybody okay with me? So the first index is 0, and then we can also do the same for tuple 2. I'll call that tuple 2. Let's print it out and see what we got. So the first item for tuple 1 is 1. That's true right there. The first item for tuple 2 is yes. Now that's just accessing it, getting access to that value. If we want to change it, it's definitely going to give us an error. So let me clear this out. Oops, I can't spell. And go ahead and try changing it. So to change it, all I needed to do is tuple 1 should now, at that first item, I'm going to assign a particular value and say new value. So that's how I'll assign new value into that space for tuple 1. I want it to go in here. If I execute that, it gives me a type error. The tuple object does not support item assignment, so I cannot assign that item. Does that make sense?
Yeah, if we 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If we change the index to 5.
Okay, so if we change the index to 5 in terms of adding it.
Yes.
So let's go ahead and execute that. It does not accept index assignment. So when you say mutating, that includes adding. So you cannot add or change any value. That size is always going to be the same. If we need to add it, that's when we have to use conversion. We have to figure out a way to change this tuple into a list. Okay.
Okay, and then maybe change it back afterwards.
Yes, and then maybe create a new, let's say, instead of using tuple 1, we'll have to call it something else, maybe tuple 1 list. So something like tuple 1 list will now be equal to list, and then just go ahead and put in the tuple in there. Now you've converted it to a list. And if I comment this out and check for the data type for tuple 1 list, after assigning that, that's one question. One. Copy this. Tuple 1 list data type. And I can do that. Execute this. Let's clear this out again. You can see now that tuple 1 list data type is a list. Make sense?
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
Excellent. Fabian, question.
Yeah, I had a question about the dictionary.
Yes.
You said we can dictionary is like a key value assignment.
Yes.
But the key cannot be changed. However, the values can be changed. And I saw that you were using like column to separate the values. I was wondering whether on the values side you can make it a list of values.
Wow, these guys are giving me a hard time today. Very good question. Short answer is yes. Long answer, let me go ahead and actually let's just use the same one. I don't need to create a new one. So how do we create a dictionary? We can go ahead and create an empty dictionary by saying, let's just say dictionary 1 is equal to that. So that creates a dictionary. If you try creating a set that way, it's going to change it to a dictionary. After doing that, let's go ahead and say, check the data type. That'll be a good thing. Let's check the data type for that. and execute our code again. Now it tells us dictionary 1 is a dictionary, right? Now we want to go ahead and assign values to it. So we can go ahead and say dictionary 1 and give it a particular assignment. Let's say give it a key. In this case, I think that's something that we should do later on this afternoon. And let's say tuple 1, assign it a value 1. Expression cannot be assigned, target, blah, 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 blah. Sorry. I don't know why I always do that. So again, you want to use square brackets. Okay. Just like we use square brackets in this one that I commented. Okay. So square brackets is used to get a particular position. In this case, the position is not necessarily a number. It could be any data type. Okay. So here I'm saying tuple 1 should be assigned tuple 1. So if I do that and then print the dictionary and go ahead and see what it looks like. Let's execute that. Let's clear this out first. Oopsie. Talking us today. Clear that out. You can see now that tuple 1 list is a list, as we can see here. And then we printed dictionary 1 data type. The data type is a dictionary. We went ahead and said our key should be tuple 1 and the value should be the value of tuple 1. So here we have tuple 1 as the key. The value is that tuple. So you can make it as complicated as you want. In this case, it's a tuple. We can go ahead and also add a list in there, right? So if we went ahead and say dictionary 1 and let's give it 1. Let the key be 1 in this case. And the value should be 1 list. So now I've added 2 values. Let me go ahead and comment those. We're adding key value pairs to the dictionary, and then we print it out. So let's execute that. Should probably clear it so we have more space. If we execute it, everything else from the beginning is going to print out. Now we have a dictionary. The first key is tuple 1. That is the value. The second key is 1. That is the value. So you can get as complicated as you want, or you can keep it just simple and just have player 1, a value, player 2, a value. Make sense?
Makes sense. That answers my question perfectly well. Yeah.
Any other questions? So I have a question for you guys. Is anybody here familiar with, let me switch back to that. Is anybody here familiar with JSON?
Yes.
I heard of it last week.
Excellent. Tell me, what do you know about JSON?
I use it for cloud formation templates, both YAML and JSON.
There you go.
Yeah.
So JSON is pretty much a dictionary. That's what we're just looking at here. Okay. So what we have done here is an example of JSON. Let me say JSON example and see if we can. So yep, there we are. So in here, this is a dictionary. The key of that dictionary is glossary. Within that dictionary, you have a nested dictionary. In this nested dictionary, you have another key that is title. The value is example glossary. Another one that is gloss division, and so on and so forth. So once we exercise, we do a few more exercises of this of our code, we'll be able to look at a lot of examples, and you'll be able to understand clearly where we come from when we talk about JSON. So it's very powerful. We'll get to learn a lot about it. Like I said, you also get to use it quite a bit. Oops, I'm going somewhere else. I need to put this in a different location, but it's not being nice to me. All right. So what other questions do you have? Questions, comments, concerns? No questions. So we're almost at the top of the hour. Okay. We've been able to go through everything so far that I've intended to do this morning. And when we come back after collections, now it's our break time. It's always better for us to get something flat rather than nested, and parse is always better than dense. So I'll give you 10 minutes break. When we come back from our break, we're going to practice. We're going to create lists. Good thing we've already done some tuple stuff. We're going to create lists. We're going to use lists. We're going to manipulate with lists. And then we'll also do the same thing with dictionaries. I know we prematurely jumped into dictionaries, but we'll do a little bit of introduction again into dictionaries, manipulate with them a little bit. And if time permits, I'll be able to introduce to you matplotlib. Is anybody familiar with matplotlib?
No, I'm not.
Okay, so it's a visualization library. It's a plotting library for Python programming language, right? So
yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I've heard of it. I have no clue.
Yeah, so what my intention is, since we're going to be talking about lists and dictionaries, we can probably see how we can use lists to maybe hold data and then plot it using another library that we'll just import and then execute it. Now that we understand how lists are, maybe you can use lists to hold the information of your orders or your months, and then hold information for your sales, and then plot a bar chart. Or you can also use it to hold a bunch of other different types of information and have some kind of visualization, maybe even a line chart, depending on what type of visualization you're looking at. Sounds good?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I use a lot of Power BI, so
yes,
I want to see how
definitely, definitely. So yeah, now you get to see the difference, advantage and disadvantage of Python and Power BI. You see how flexible you can make your things using Python. But Power BI, you're only, limited to using the GUI, the graphical user interface, to make your changes. Excellent. All right, so let me go ahead and put